Hello, I am George Rodriguez, a business manager specializing in the agribusiness market across Latin America. Today I want to address a figure that should be on the agenda of any company operating in the agricultural inputs market in Brazil, and one that is rarely discussed with the depth it deserves. In 2024, Brazil became the single largest importer of fertilizers on the planet. Larger than the United States, larger than India, larger than China. We consume approximately 47 million tons of fertilizers per year and produce only 7 million tons domestically. That is 40 million tons arriving from abroad every year, an 88% import dependency. Let me break down what this means by macronutrient, because the figures are even more striking when examined separately. For nitrogen, the most consumed macronutrient in Brazil, essential for vegetative growth and for grain protein production, import dependency reaches 95%. The only relevant domestic production comes from a small number of Petrobras plants and the Araucaria Nitrogenados facility. Producing urea in Brazil is expensive because the primary input, natural gas, is expensive. Persian Gulf countries have access to near-free gas as a byproduct of oil production. This structural cost advantage is almost impossible to eliminate in the short term. For potash, the most important nutrient for grain quality and filling, essential for soybean, maize and sugarcane, dependency is 96%. Brazil holds potash reserves in the Amazon, specifically the Altas Pole, but the environmental licensing for that project is complex and the operational timeline remains uncertain. And now comes the scenario that in 2026 made this fragility urgent and visible to the entire market. The conflict between the United States and Iran and the subsequent blockade of the Strait of Hormuz interrupted the route through which approximately 41% of Brazil's urea imports transited. Persian Gulf countries accounted for approximately 36% of total urea shipments received by Brazil in 2025. When that route closed, the international price of urea rose by more than 30% within a matter of weeks. Brazil's Ministry of Agriculture classified the fertilizer supply outlook for the 2026-27 crop season as, and I am using the exact wording from the official document, extremely high risk. This is the context that gave urgency to PROFERT, the program for the development of the fertilizer industry, which returned to the floor of the Chamber of Deputies in May 2026 with an approval the sector had long anticipated. PROFERT creates a special tax regime modeled on the Repetro framework for the oil and gas sector and the REIDI framework for infrastructure, suspension and zeroing of PIS, PASEP, COFINS, IPI and import duty for companies investing in the construction or expansion of fertilizer production plants in Brazil, duration 5 years. It also enables the issuance of incentivized debentures with income tax exemption for individual investors, significantly reducing the cost of capital market fundraising. PROFERT did not arrive alone. Petrobras has already reactivated the Fafens plants in Bahia and Sergipe with capacities of 1,300 and 1,800 tons of urea per day respectively. With the completion of UFN 3 in Tres Lagoas, the target is to cover between 20 and 35% of national urea demand. The BNDES released 15 billion through the Brasil Soberano 2 plan for sectors affected by international instability. And the alignment with the PNMCE, the national policy on critical and strategic minerals approved in the same week, creates a regulatory umbrella that positions fertilizers as a strategic national input. To be objective about both sides of this equation, the pros are structural and very welcome. The missing legal framework now exists. Private investment in new plants has legal certainty and tax incentives. Petrobras has returned to fertilizer production after years of absence. And the legislative alignment between PROFERT and the PNMCE creates the most solid regulatory foundation the sector has ever had in Brazil. The cons are equally real. PROFERT's 5-year duration may be insufficient for long maturation industrial projects. A urea plant alone takes 3 to 5 years to construct. The solution to potash dependency, 96% imported, is not on any short or medium-term horizon. The Altas Pole depends on environmental licensing. And Brazil's track record of approved legislative projects that stall for lack of complementary regulation or executive follow-through requires the market to monitor implementation rigorously, not merely approval. For distributors, specialty fertilizer formulators, and portfolio managers, the price volatility and supply uncertainty we are experiencing in 2026 is not cyclical. It is structural. An 88% dependency will not resolve itself in 1 or 2 crop seasons. This means supplier diversification strategy is urgent, that the development of high agronomic efficiency products per applied dose now carries genuine market differentiation. Because when conventional fertilizer becomes more expensive, the product that delivers more result with less tonnage gains ground. And that the organo-mineral and controlled release fertilizer portfolio has an accelerated growth window ahead. Brazil will, in time, reduce its fertilizer dependency over the coming decade. But until then, those who know how to operate in an environment of volatility and uncertainty will hold a significant competitive advantage over those who depend on stable market conditions. I am George Rodriguez. Until the next piece of content.